Good morning, everybody. This is Alan from Woodcrest Bonsai. And in this video, I am going to repot these two Portulacaria Jade. And these trees have nice development. I like both of them. They are completely different. This is a much more masculine tree with a very thick trunk, and it has beautiful taper. And I will feature each of them individually soon enough. And then this is a much more feminine tree. It's been wired into a slanting trunk. And I'm going to repot both of them because they both need it. But this pot here has now become too small for this tree. This tree, I'm going to put it right back in the same pot because I think the pot works with the tree. And I apologize for the wind. Here we are. It's only 8 in the morning and it's already windy. I don't know. It seems like this year has been windier than any I ever remember. But there's nothing you're going to do about that. So let's start with this one. Okay. So if we zoom in on this guy. You see that it's just a really nice tree. I love the movement. I love the thick base. And you can see here there was a massive trunk chop right there. And then there was another large limb removed right there. But this all right here is the original chop. All right there. So this baby, what is that stuff on my... Oh, it's part of the fuzz of my background. I hate my background, actually. I'm in the process of attempting to get something different. So that is the original chop. So this puppy was, could have been 10, 12, 14 inches high, and it was chopped to just a stump. And then this was a sacrifice branch that also has been removed. And then when we come up here, it's just a really nice tree. I just really love it. It's funny because in real life you're looking at stuff and you're like, oh, that doesn't look that bad. But now in the viewfinder, these guys here hiding the trunk, and just doing that accentuates the trunk better. This tree does have a little bit of wire. I really need this branch here and this branch here to become more vigorous. Most of the rest of the branches have some really nice ramifications starting. And you notice how I've been pinching these guys, and so the leaves are that much smaller. And these guys, look how big the leaves are on this one. And it's like the whole rest of the tree doesn't really have huge leaves. And then there's this group here. And visually, it just looks like that. But as far as actual doing any kind of real work on this tree, it's just going to be a repotting. So I'm going to take him here. I'm going to come back around to the other side. Break on through to the other side. And he should just pop right out of the pot. Yep. I'm going to give him just the 1/2 to 1/3 haircut of the bottom roots. Trying not to cut too many rocks with my scissors. And this is in a rocky bonsai soil, because some of my stuff is still in landscape mix. But this is a rocky bonsai soil. And then I'm just going to give it a little bit of a trim around the edges. And if we look, you can see there's some roots, like right here and right here, that it kind of exposed. So I think it could go down a little more. So since I've cut the roots, is that the screen? There's the screen. It's funny how they just push the screen right up off the bottom of the pot. A lot of plants do that. And sometimes the old screen is salvageable and sometimes it isn't. And that looks, yeah, it looks within tolerances. Okay, so put the old crusty screen back in there. And then a thin layer of soil, because I want this baby to be a little bit lower than it was growing. And the front and all the rest of it is not going to change. Oh yeah, I like it lower like that. And I may angle it a little more like that so we can see into the tree better. How's that puppy looking? Oh yes, so nice. This is very definitely one of my favorite ports that I have. And a lot of it is, the reason is because it got that massive trunk chop. If you're a beginner and you wonder why, how we go from a huge thick trunk like this to all the beautiful taper and the movement, it's that massive trunk chop. Allow a tree to get maybe 4 times taller than the chop. So this chop is about 2 inches, 2.5 inches. So the tree was easily a foot. And then that massive trunk chop, and then you regrow this part here, and it's hard to tell, but then it was chopped, and then you regrow some more, and then once you get to this stage, then it's just pinching. There's no more major chopping going on. And I want this branch here and this and the apex, because they're both fairly weak. If we look at it this way, you see this branch has some really nice ramification. This branch is nice and full, this branch is nice and full, but this branch is very weak, and so is the apex. So allow those to grow and continually pinch off the growth on the stronger branches, and the tree will push energy into the weaker branches. But as far as the finished product, I'm super happy with that. It's just really came out really nice. And then, as the case with all Portulacarias that I root prune, and this did not get a massive root prune, but regardless, no water for 24 hours. In fact, I just had a comment on another port that I completely denuded, because I took about 6 or 8 over the past few weeks, and on some of them I took off every single leaf, almost every single branch. I took them down to virtually nothing, and I'm going to regrow them. And they asked, is this thing going to live with no leaves? And just yesterday I noticed that every single one in that group that got totally denuded is resprouting. And the sprouts are tiny, 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 tiny. So when the leaves get a little bit bigger and you can see more readily how well they've resprouted, then I will do an update on those trees. But I'm loving this guy. He is just so cool. So no water for 24 hours. Pinch out all of the more aggressive growth and let these guys fill in more, and this tree is going to be gorgeous. It's already pretty nice. Okay, so now let's get rid of some of the crud. Oh, look at that, there was another screen. Look at that, this is the base, and there was another screen. So apparently the last time I repotted this guy, I forgot the original screen, because this screen is the same dimensions as the old pot, or the pot, because I didn't change a pot. So now we get to this guy here, and he has had some wiring. Maybe I'll zoom out just a touch. And I love this tree too. It's very graceful, much more feminine than the other tree. Now we do have some issues with this tree as far as dominating branches. So my downward sweeping branch here is pretty weak, and this branch here is really full and thick. So I'm going to give this guy here a pretty good haircut. I'm going to keep the wire on because I don't see any cutting into the bark. And this is another very interesting pot. Not the pot itself. The pot itself is just a mass-produced pot. It's a pretty pot. I like it very much. But the reason it's unique is because almost a year ago to the day, the 28th of April, was it 2 years? God, time flies. Anyway, the 28th of April, I think it was 2023, we had a hailstorm. And I've lived in this house 25 years, and I've never seen hail at this house. And man, that hailstorm was just insane. And it actually cracked this pot. It broke off one of the corners. The hail actually snapped the corner right off, right here. Can you see that? That one little suture line right there, and then right here, and I super glued it back on. I think you can see it just right there, and then just right here. So that's the back of this pot, and I was just shocked that hail could actually snap the corner off of a ceramic bonsai pot. But as I said before, the tree is nice and the pot is nice, but I think the pot's now just a little bit too small. Typically, the convention says that a pot should be 2/3 either the height of the tree or the width of the tree, whichever is more. This tree's a little bit wider, and this guy here, if we go like that and we bring it up there, it's only about half. So we need a little bit bigger pot. And whenever I'm repotting, I like to bring multiple pots to kind of just eyeball. So I've got 3. So let's just, I don't know, get the guy like this. I've got this one here, which is a very nice pot, nice glaze. It does have a chop mark right there, so I do think it's handmade. Then we have a couple of mass-produced pots. So this is a chop mark too, though, but I think this is mass-produced. And this is what they call a scalloped pot. And then a rectangular. And I think this is mass-produced, but it has a really nice glaze. And so when I'm deciding on which one I want, I usually just physically just stick it in there and see what it looks like. So this guy should come out of this pot fairly easily. I said should. Oh, it's got wire holding down the screen. Come on, baby. There we go. And this is actually the plastic screen. So I'm going to need to cut this out of there, else I'll never be able to get it into the new pots with this metal here. That wire's sitting like that. Okay. Okay, so here we go. Pot number one. And I think I want it a little higher, so somewhere about like that. And I like that a lot, right there. But we're going to do the other two. That will work too. This pot's a little big, but you know, the tree can grow into that pot. I think that will work very nicely. And then we have the scalloped pot, which I think will probably also work. Although I don't know, these scalloped pots, they're okay. I think I acquired this one from my friend because I don't think I've ever bought a scallop pot. I mean, they're all right, but I don't know. They just don't work for me. It is interesting, though, that I've chosen a scalloped, an oval, and a rectangle. So that's interesting. And I really just did that subconsciously. All right, so I'm going with the first one. And many times, you know, they say a pot is like a picture frame. So you want the pot to be subordinate to the tree. But many times if you look at exhibits or other bonsai gatherings where people have trees on display, and you'll look at the way the pot and the tree mesh together, and it's like, man, you know, just like the perfect combination. However, my philosophy on a pot is that you can always change it. Trees grow. It's almost impossible to keep a tree at exactly the same size over years and years and years and years. Over time, you're going to need to let them get a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. And it's possible to keep them from ever getting bigger, but I don't know how to say it. I am not averse to allowing a tree to get a little bit bigger and then over time putting it into a bigger pot. So here's my screen, which is in some bizarre arrow form, who knows. As long as it keeps soil from going through the drain hole, that's all that matters. At least in my world. Okay, so now I am going to need to do a little more pruning on this guy. We've cut the bottom off, and now I need to just go around like this. I don't know if you can tell, but you can really see the outline of the old soil ball. And if I don't do this, then I just did a video on how bonsai can look really dumb if you put it from a smaller pot into a larger pot without softening up the edges of the old pot. It just looks like you just stuck it out of one pot into another. So I want this one a little bit higher. This guy may need some anchoring too, which at this point is probably just going to be some rocks. And you notice I've got the trunk way off to this side, but because of the way it sweeps like this, the entire vision is that it's quite balanced, even though the trunk is way, way off to that side. And that's what I'm looking for in my trees and pots, the way they interact with each other is the balance. Yeah, see how much balance there is? Timber! I told you it was going to need to be secured. Alright. Well, like my father used to say, if all else fails, drop back and punt. Okay, so let's start over. Maybe I should go get the rocks first. Okay, I'm going to go get some rocks. Alright, got my rocks. So I think what I'm going to do is do that and then put him right there. And then add some more soil here. Put this puppy right there. Now, I also want to spin it around. I want my first main branch, my second main branch to be at 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock. Alright, so can we at least remove this one? So now let's see how balanced it looks. Oh yeah, very nice. Very nice indeed. And this guy has some work that needs to be done too. There's almost nothing in here. I just cut this piece back and it has 0 leaves now, but it can fill in there. This is perhaps a little long up here, so it could use to be pinched over time. But I think overall it's going to work well with this new pot. So I'm going to put the new rock back on there. Alright, stay. So there we go. Try to get the soil container out of the way. And bring tree number 1 back. And there we go. Newly repotted. 2 really nice trees that are 2 of my favorite ports in my Shohin collection. And I really like how the new pot works with this guy here. Can you actually see the end? Is there? I guess we can zoom out a little tiny bit more. So there you go. Ports are a fantastic bonsai. Tropical trees. Remember, they're native. Well, they're native to South Africa, so I think South Africa gets some cold. And they're called elephant bush because elephants actually eat them. But for me, they're the best beginner tree that there is because they're just so forgiving if you forget to water them. And, well, here's a perfect example. I did some trimming of some other ports the other day, and I just stuck the cuttings onto the workbench. And here they are. Okay, and look at these. These have been sitting here for about a week. And they're a little shriveled, but they're still perfectly alive. And when I talk about not watering so that the calluses can heal over, there's a perfect example of the callus healed over. And of course these are branches, but the same thing occurs with the roots. And I'm telling you, these guys have been sitting on the bench here for about a week. And you can see they're shriveled a little bit, but they're nowhere even close to drying up and dying. So ports are just so forgiving when it comes to forgetting to water. And as a beginner, that was my biggest problem was, because bonsai takes a lot of attention. They become like your children. A lot of people talk about them, the analogy of a prized dog. If you have, would you not feed your dog for a week? People say, well, that's insane. Why would you do that? Well, it's the same way with your trees. You can't just ignore them. So anyway, and what I have found is the more you have, the better your collection will be, because it becomes part of your life. It's like you get up and you do your bathroom thing and you have your breakfast and then you come out into the bonsai, and it's every day you do the same thing. Your bonsai become part of your daily routine. And yesterday, a cheap plastic hose connection cracked apart on me, so I didn't get a chance to fix it, so I'm going to go do that right now. And of course I have to boil water in order to soften the hose up enough to get the male end of the new connection into the hose, because the hose is old and brittle. And it's not that big of a deal. It was annoying, but it happens. And I changed all my connections are now metal. I don't use any more plastic. Plastic just doesn't last. The extra money for the metal is far, far better. So there you go, 2 more ports of the large collection of ports that I have. And in about another week, I will give you an update on the ones that I just totally ravaged. Took down to nothing. And they're all sprouting. So thank you so much for watching. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't already subscribed, please do so and hit that notification bell. I think over time, both of these trees are just going to end up being better and better and better. So thank you so much for watching Woodcrest Bonsai.